Hello everybody, this is Nida Zafar and I am the Senior Counselor at LUMS and I have been chosen to represent the Counseling and Psychological Service. Some things that we will be talking about today in this presentation are first of all, what is mental health and how do we identify mental health distress? What are some of the signs and symptoms, or when might you need to see a counselor? Another thing we will discuss today is what kind of problems you may wish to reach out to the counseling unit with. Sometimes we feel barriers towards seeking help. What are some barriers that could come in your way while seeking help for your mental health? We'll discuss those and see how you can overcome them. Then we will go on further as to discuss why counseling is necessary, because sometimes we feel that we have friends and family and other people and other forms of support. Why would we need counseling? So we will sort of discuss the difference that is present there and how counseling can be helpful, even if you have a very good support system in your life. And next we will go on to explain, for some of us, for some of you, counseling might be coming to the counseling unit might be your first experience to therapy or counseling. So what to expect so that we can make the process less intimidating for some and sort of help you reach out. Next, I will let you know how the counseling unit, sort of the counseling services operates and at LUMS, and what are some sort of services that we provide. One of the services we provide is academic accommodations or petitions for mental health. We'll discuss them as well. And in the end, I will introduce you to the team. We are a team of 8 people right now, and I'll sort of introduce you to all of them. So before we start, I would now like you to sort of sit in wherever you're sitting in your own spaces, to sort of sit back and answer these questions for me. If you've ever felt stressed, and if you've ever felt sad. Sometimes we sort of use these terms of sadness and depression interchangeably, but it's so common for us to sort of use one in place of the other. But the question here is, how does is there any difference? And if there is, what is the difference? Just think about it for your own self for now. Also think about, so if you have been stressed, or if you ever have been anxious, how do you know you're stressed and anxious? Like, how do you identify and recognize these feelings inside of you? And what are some of these, like, symptoms that you feel? Just think about them, so that once later we sort of talk about all of these questions in more detail, you know what your personal perspective to all of these things is. And all of us have negative emotions and feelings throughout our day, throughout our week. And so the question here is, how do we manage our negative emotions and feelings, right? Because in everyday life, we feel these things, and positive or negative, and we are managing them on our own. So it's a good way to sort of take this minute to sort of go over it and identify for yourself what are some ways that you manage or cope with your negative emotions or feelings. And lastly, what is mental health? So we keep on sort of talking about mental health so much, and it's an important thing in our lives as well. But how would you define mental health? So yeah, so while you take the moment to sort of think about it, we'll go forward and I'll answer these questions for you as best as I can. So the last question that we asked is, what is mental health? So let's read out the WHO definition that we have. Mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contributions to his or her community. So basically here, when we talk about mental health, it's similar to when we talk about physical health. And in physical health, we have two criteria. One is good physical health and one is bad physical health. So mental health in itself doesn't mean you have some sort of disorder or problem. It just means that your state of mind is uh, which helps you identify your potential and sort of helps you cope with normal stressors, is either good or bad depending on how we are looking at our mental health. So yeah, if we have a good mental health, we are able to achieve our potential. We're able to sort of contribute, be fruitful members of and productive members of our communities. And when a stress or a challenge comes our way, we are able to handle it without actually breaking down. Similarly, अगर हमारी mental health is being affected और हमारी mental health अच्छी नहीं है in that moment, तो हम इसको mental health distress कह सकते हैं या bad mental health कह सकते हैं. तो we will not be able to achieve or our full potential, or we have high productivity. So in the next slide, which is the science of mental health distress, let's talk about if you have a bad mental health or if your mental health is deteriorating, what would it feel like? So what does mental health distress feel like? You start feeling anxious and worried, and you might also feel depressed and unhappy. Emotional outbursts like हमें गुस्सा बहुत जल्दी आ जाता है या रोना बहुत जल्दी आ जाता है, or we're just very moody all the time. So you have low feelings, and sometimes you have just anxious feelings जिसमें आप restless हो रहे हो, टांगे बहुत चला रहे हो, you feel like walking around. एक फीलिंग आती है जिसमें आपको समझ नहीं आता अब आप क्या करो. यू हैव लाइक एक्सेसिव एनर्जी है जो आपको समझ नहीं आता, या थॉट्स बहुत ज़्यादा दिमाग में घूम रहे होते हैं, या हमारी जो नींद है और एपेटाइट है वो डिस्टर्ब हो जाती है. सो स्लीपिंग टू मच और टू लिटिल, सिमिलरली ईटिंग टू मच और टू लिटिल आर बोथ डिस्टर्बेंसेज. कुछ लोग जो होते हैं चुप हो जाते हैं या सोशली विड्रॉन हो जाते हैं फ्रॉम दिस सर्कल. दे माइट नॉट meet people or talk to people. Some people, as a coping mechanism, also start using substance abuse. Or some people have feelings of guilt or worthlessness, like मेरा तो कोई point ही नहीं है, what am I even doing in this world? Are some sort of common signs of distress. Yeah, people around you start noticing changes in your behavior or personality, right? So people who have known you for a longer period of time, they start feeling, something wrong, or you've changed, um, and you've changed drastically, or sort of these sort of changes in behavior or personality could also indicate mental health distress. अब ज़रूरी नहीं है कि इनमें से कोई लाइक स्लीप डिस्टर्बेंस हो तो ज़रूरी है कोई मेंटल हेल्थ डिस्ट्रेस हो. समटाइम्स अदर रीजंस भी हो सकते हैं, बाकी चीज़ों के भी अदर रीजंस हो सकते हैं. बट इफ़ यू आर sort of feeling some of these, it is good to understand that शायद there's some mental health distress happening here, and talking about it and figuring out if it is actually mental health distress or a deterioration in your mental health is sort of always good, right? कि अगर हमें कभी भी बुखार हो, ज़रूरी नहीं है कि वो सिर्फ बुखार is anything dangerous, but we sort of monitor it to see ताकि we understand that it's not developing into something sort of serious. इसी तरह being more aware of your emotions and sort of your thoughts helps you identify when your mental health starts deteriorating. So now, if sort of one of you or some of you identify, like look at these signs and symptoms and feel कि अच्छा, I have some of them, so you can sort of reach out to us. But what other reasons might one need to see a counselor for? So आप सब LUMS की लाइफ शुरू कर रहे हैं, and I'm sure all of you are so excited, but something that comes with the student life at LUMS is stress, right? Because you will start getting assignments and classes, and so many things are happening at the same time, and you have to adjust from your sort of college life into university life, which is slightly different. College was for a year long. You sometimes had time to cope up. Here you might not have that sort of amount of time to cope up with things, or the amount of time to sort of settle in, because a semester is just 3 months, 3.5 months. It moves really quickly. So stress becomes part and parcel of student life. So if it is becoming too much, and once again because of stress आपको इनमें से कोई भी symptoms feel होना शुरू हो जाए या वैसे आपको feel करे too much, you can come see a counselor. Besides the academic changes that are going to happen in your and academic demands, you are going to be sort of facing a lot of new developmental challenges, right? Like making new friendships, new relationships, new personal responsibilities. आप में से कुछ लोग अभी तो खैर सारे for fall semester will be home, but eventually sort of hostel life and problems with hostel life. These are some sort of things that are going to change, and sometimes जब हमारी ज़िंदगी में change आ रहा होता है तो change can be overwhelming and it takes us some time to adjust and adapt. So in that duration, if any of you feel mental health distress, you can reach out. If you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or isolated or even hopeless, or you are sort of while attending LUMS or previously in your life, if you sort of um, went through any grief or loss, or there's been some sort of trauma or abuse in your life, or have gone through some major accident or injuries, or have diagnosed psychological disorders, so you can always reach out for any of those things. These things don't have to be current, don't have to happen in the 4 years at LUMS, but it might be things जो आपकी ज़िंदगी में पहले हुई हो, but they're disturbing you, and sort of you never had the opportunity to sort of go to a counselor. This might be a good time to sort of explore those to help you sort of move on. Because when all of these things are happening and something in your life is happening, something personal, family problems are happening, right now for many of us because we're sitting at home, so any family problem that sort of happens, हमें एकदम वो चीज़ sort of affect करती है. तो when that happens, तो there might be a decline in your academic performance, या आपकी फंक्शनिंग में प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है, मोटिवेशन ना हो, प्रोक्रास्टिनेशन बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाए, या कोई और सीरियस कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हो रहे हों. तो इफ़ योर फंक्शनैलिटी इज़ बीइंग अफेक्टेड बाय एनीथिंग एट ऑल, you can see a counselor. And something to sort of understand is most psychological problems have a high rate of recovery. So necessarily, because sometimes it's scary, right? Because we think, okay, अच्छा अब मेरे साथ कुछ, I'll find out something bad is going on with me psychologically, and then sort of I won't be able to help myself. So understand that most psychological problems have a high rate of recovery agar you seek out help, like anything at all, like even physical health problems, right? But yes, you have to sort of work with a counselor, and things will can get better, and we will help you sort of try to make them better. So just a list of, so detail mein sort of we discussed all of them, but just a list of other things that sort of you can reach out with if you're feeling stressed, anxiety, depression, any other mental health problems, adjustment or transition problems, relationship issues, family issues, relational issues, sort of in terms of with other people at LUMS, okay? Because now at LUMS you will also be interacting with your academic advisors, with your faculty, with advising units, with societies. So any other sort of people that you interact with or have relationships with, that you sort of have issues, drug and substance abuse, trauma and abuse, childhood adversity, and last but because for a lot of you, counseling might be a first experience. So if you just feel like you want to have a conversation to see where your mental health is at, you can always reach out to us. We are available. Even if you have no idea why you're reaching out to us, even if you are hesitant reaching out because you don't know what to talk about, we will discuss all of that later. But just walk in to have a conversation. You don't necessarily sort of have to have a problem. You can just have a conversation with us and see where you are at. So like we talked about barriers to help seeking, right? Sometimes we are hesitant in seeking help even though we know things are bad. So let's discuss what are some common problems or barriers that lead us to stop seeking help. So there are a large number of reasons, right? First is कि हमें knowledge ही नहीं होता of the early one, warning signs, right? So that is why we talked about some signs and symptoms of mental health distress. So now you are much more aware, maybe some of you were already aware, but for others you're now aware what disturbances to sort of look for, right? The other is denial. We don't want to accept that I can also have mental health problems, right? But there's something to understand is all of us, all of us have mental health problems because हर एक की life में things happen, right? किसी की भी life is not smooth, right? We have ups and downs in life, and that means all of us are at some point going to be stressed, going to be sad, going to be angry, and sometimes that stress or that anger or that low period is just so overwhelming that we feel that mentally we are very distressed, right? So denial could be another reason, right? So this sort of presentation might help you overcome that denial or the stigma that we attach to mental health problems, right? But at LUMS, you are part of a community that understands mental health to some extent, a little better than sort of maybe outside world, and we're here to help you. So just reach out. The other is lack of information about campus resources. Once again, that's what all this presentation is about. I'll also tell you later in the presentation of how to reach out to us and sort of make an appointment. So family's attitude towards health seeking or your personal values attached to health seeking. So some of us might personally or our families might feel it is weak to seek out outside help. It means that you don't have friends and a support system that is why you require outside help. Something to understand is if you're sick, you reach out to a doctor. You reach out to a doctor to get better, and that doesn't make you weak. Similarly, reaching out to a mental health counselor or a specialist about your mental health doesn't make you weak. And your family's attitude might have stopped you previously, but now you have a resource where you don't require your family's help to take you for help seeking. It is available on campus, and now you can provide yourself help pretty directly. So the previous reason, that one of the reasons we talked about, is that a lot of people feel that they have support systems and so don't need a counselor. So some things to understand is, okay, what is the difference between a friend and a counselor? अगर आपके पास एक अच्छा support system है, तब भी why would you need to go seek a counselor? So what are some differences? ठीक है? The first is a counselor is trained to listen openly and not interrupt you. Because with a friend, you're having a conversation, right? In a conversation, two people sort of equally express their opinions throughout the conversation. Sometimes जब हम अपने emotions के बारे में या something we talk about something that is hard, तो होता यह है कि we sometimes feel that we need to sort of talk and disclose without being interrupted. So क्योंकि a counselor is trained at openly listening and not interrupting, that is something that a counselor can provide. And जो negative emotions or frustration आपको feel होती है at being interrupted again and again or being given advice in the middle of the conversation is not something you might experience with a trained counselor. Other than that, a friend cannot supply you with a weekly set time and place. Okay? So you in a counseling room, you are the person who gets all the attention because you are the focus. And there's a specific time set in the session, and it has a clear beginning and a clear end. A session is usually anywhere between 45 to 50 minutes, maybe less, or depending on your problem. और आपको पता होता है कि weekly, let's say Monday को 12 p.m. I will have an appointment, or Tuesday को I will have an appointment, and it will be an hour long. That's difficult with a friend to repeatedly do, right? So you can reach out to a friend anytime, but sometimes the friend might also be busy. So with the counselor, you will know that you've set a specific time and sort of and you'll have all the counselor's attention in that point. Let's say you can reach out to a friend, but a friend might be busy with friends or family, might be doing something or have a deadline, and so might not be able to give you his or her full attention. Doesn't mean they're a bad friend, just life happens, right? So with the counselor, you have their complete attention in a specific time every week. Sometimes our friends and family members are not objective, ठीक है? आप लोग भी देखते होगे कि if your friend talks about something, you are always providing, you're not always objective, right? Agar let's suppose your brother or your sister, a sibling talks about your parents, they are equally your parents, so it's difficult for you to be objective. Um, between two friends, it's difficult to be objective because आपके फ्रेंड की या उस फैमिली मेम्बर की भी इक्वल इन्वेस्टमेंट हो सकती है उन रिलेशनशिप्स के साथ. But a counselor is a third person and so will always be objective. And a counselor is taught to be objective, to put out their views and opinions outside of the counseling room, right? So in that room, they are completely objective and sort of are discussing whatever you bring to the table or you bring to the discussion. Other than that, counselors are professionally trained in human behavior, relationship dynamics, and effective interventions. Counselors go to school, spend a lot of years getting an advanced degree in understanding all of these things. So, all of us are humans, we do understand human behaviors, and all of us have relationships. मगर हमारी understanding थोड़ी limited होती है because through experience sometimes we are not consciously learning new things, we are just sort of passing through our time. But जो counselors होते हैं वो इन चीज़ों में professionally trained होते हैं and so sometimes are better able to help. Next is therapy is completely confidential. Your friendship might allow confidentiality and the fact that they might not disclose, but sometimes चीज़ें इतनी पर्सनल होती हैं कि दे आर अनकम्फर्टेबल टू शेयर विद अ फ्रेंड, और वी फील कि अगर ये गलती से भी कभी फ्रेंड ने किसी को बता दिया इन अ बैड मोमेंट व्हाट इज़ गोइंग टू हैपन. थेरेपी इज़ कम्प्लीटली कॉन्फिडेंशियल. जो हमारा थेरेप्यूटिक ऑफिस है, इट्स अ सपोर्टिव सेफ स्पेस and you can talk about anything here without any sort of judgment, and whatever you say in this room sort of remains in this room. So before you start therapy, you will be signing a confidentiality agreement, which is to protect the counselor as well as the student, and the agreement makes sure that everything that you say is confidential और वो उस स्पेस से बाहर नहीं जाता. Yeah. Okay, now what to expect? Because इतनी normal बात है कि even if I was sort of meeting a stranger, I will feel a little anxious, right? And यहाँ पे हम एक stranger से meet कर रहे होते हैं to sort of talk about some of our very personal and very difficult things. So anxiety is normal. So if you feel anxious before a therapy session, your first session, it's understand that it's okay, right? Because it's pretty normal. There's a trust that sort of happens between a therapist and a client. The trust is maintained because whatever you say remains here and there's no judgment that's coming from the therapist. We then contract with each other to maintain that trust and to maintain respect with each other. Because how can you sort of talk about something so personal without respect and trust, right? So we sort of so that is paramount and the basic structure on which we build up the session, which is trust and respect. उसके अलावा therapy session sort of offers you non-judgmental space, so you can talk about anything at all and the counselor won't judge you and will offer you acceptance to whatever you're telling and also offer empathy to whatever you're expressing. As a therapist, what I can't fix your problems and I won't try to fix your problems. I will not try to give you advice. I will not tell you what to do. I won't pretend I know more about you than you do. I will not assume what is best for you. And I or any counselor will not have all the answers, and we will not make the hard stuff go away. Because sometimes हम therapy पे जाते हैं to fix problems and get advice. Something to understand is, as a therapist, I can't fix your problems or try to fix your problems, and I can't tell you what to do, but I can help you make the decisions about what to do. Um, I can help you come to a conclusion um, about whatever you want to do. I can sort of support you in decisions that you make and handle the emotional consequences of those decisions. As a therapist, what will I do? I will remind you that you are not broken. All of us go through this. That doesn't mean you're broken, and you can always sort of get up and sort of, this is part of life. It doesn't make you broken. I will give you the room to express your own wisdom. That's why I can't give advice or I can't tell you what to do, because you know yourself best and you have developed your own wisdom. Sometimes you just can't access it. So I will give you the room to access that wisdom and make a decision yourself. I will help support you in figuring out what to do. I will recognize that you're an expert on your own life. Remember that only you know what is best for you, because you are living that life. I am not living your life, and so you know yourself best. Sometimes I will help you recognize that. Um, Honor that I don't know it all. I am also a human being and will not have all the answers. And sometimes we will get stuck together, and that's also okay, because that's part of the therapeutic process. Collectively with you, collaborate with you on how to make hard stuff easier to sit with. So the point is not to make the hard stuff go away, but I can sit with you during that hard stuff, and we can try to make it easier to be in that moment with that feeling and see how to make it easier rather than forcing ourselves into a space where we are pushing all of hard stuff sort of away. So there are some things to expect, and some things as a therapist I can or I will or will not do. Right now, let's talk about. So we've talked about what mental health is. We have talked about signs and symptoms of mental health distress. We have talked about support systems, of how your personal support systems might be different than counseling. We have talked about your barriers to coming for counseling. We have talked about what to expect when you enter a therapist's room. Now let's come to LUMS, like what are the some providing. So the counseling services at LUMS operates Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. We have lunch breaks between 1 to 2 on Mondays to Thursdays and 1 to 2:30 on Fridays. How to now the next step is, that is our timings. We just operate within these hours. How to get an appointment. So either you can call, and the number is present here if you want to take a screenshot, or you can email us. Response time generally is 24 hours. Weekends pay, generally you will not get a response unless you state that it is an urgent case. So if it is urgent, write urgent and you will receive a response. But other than that, you will receive a response in the next 24 hours. In case it is an emergency, it will be really helpful if you could describe the urgent matter in your email, ताकि we can take actions appropriately. And these numbers and this address is also available on LUMS website. If you go to the LUMS website, there's an emergency information tab. You click on it, this number and this email address is also available there. And yeah, and we have a complete confidentiality policy. So whatever you bring, personal matters, things that happen at LUMS, whatever it is completely between us. And we'll discuss this in our model of care. which is next. So when we receive a call or an email, the first step we do is send you a DAS questionnaire and confidentiality agreement. So what is a DAS questionnaire? DAS is a depression, anxiety, stress questionnaire. Um, it just gives us a sort of a slight idea of where your symptoms are sort of present and sort of see how severe the problem is. This does not affect the urgency with which you get an appointment. Everybody is going to get an appointment in the next 36 hours, 36 to 48 hours. But this question sort of helps us in when we sit in the session to understand sort of where the intensity of the symptoms are. And we send you a confidentiality agreement. We would like you to read it and send it through and sort of sign it and agree to it. And so these two things are sent to a student. As soon as the student responds with one or both of these sort of documents, we also request their contact number and class schedule, because आपको sessions हम आपकी class schedule के हिसाब से देंगे, and if you have your contact number, it's easier to contact you and set up an appointment sometimes rather than via email. But if you have a preference, you can let us know. If you don't want us to call on your phone, or you do prefer sort of communication on your contact number, you can state your preference also. Depending on your class schedule, we will set up an appointment. You will be set up for an appointment with one of our counselors on the panel. Simultaneously, जब आपकी appointment set होगी, you will also be sent a document about psychotherapy. This document is, once again, we talked about what to expect in a session. This is just about that. Therapy is can for newcomers be an anxiety-provoking process. So this document sort of helps answer any questions that you might have about psychotherapy. But if at the end you still have some unanswered questions, write them down, bring them in the therapy session, and we can talk about them. Similarly, if you have any questions about the confidentiality agreement or the DAS questionnaire, once you do have a session with your counselor, you can discuss any of these things that have happened via email, but you had questions about them. Then after the session, the counselor might discuss with you and also suggest what might be sort of if we need to do a follow-up session, or that you don't need to see the counselor again. Your needs and wants are also kept in mind, and then depending on what is decided in the session, either you will get weekly sessions or you will get fortnightly sessions. And if you're just looking for one session, you won't be scheduled again, and we will end the therapy process for you. Now, academic accommodations of petition. This is another part of our services, which is only available for moderate to severe cases. So if ever you need an academic accommodation on the basis of mental health, so the procedure is, first you contact the OSA and fill out their paperwork, and they will generally ask you to see the mental health counselor. Just you can send an email or call us requesting for that appointment. It will be highly helpful if you are looking for just an academic accommodation or petition to make that your subject line. That helps route you to the process, right? Other than that, in case it is time sensitive, please mention that in an email. So let's say you have an exam tomorrow and you definitely need to see a counselor today to sort out your petition. Mention that it is time sensitive to make sure that we sort of get to it immediately. And we will route you to a counselor as soon as possible. Some things that we take into sort of after the counselor sends their assessment forward, the OSA makes the decision based on your past history, record from the campus counselor, our assessment, your academic performance, and in case you are seeking help externally, okay? पहले से you were seeking help outside, either in the form of a psychiatrist or in the form of a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist. You can also provide that specialist note. तो जब आप when you come to your counselor, bring in that note, and that will be attached to your file and sent to the OSA so that the OSA can make their decision based on it. So now at the end, let me introduce you to our team. So Dr. Tara is our head of department, and she is a licensed clinical psychologist. She has completed all her education from Australia, and she sort of joined us last year. And then Rabia Sajad is our practice supervisor, and she is basically the one, when you're going to call or when you're going to email, she is going to be receiving your calls and emails, and so this is the face behind our phone number and our email address. Then this is me. I'm Nida Zafar. I'm the senior counselor, and I have done my master's in clinical psychology from Columbia University. Next is Anushe. She is also our counselor, permanent staff mate. She's one of our counselors. She has also done her master's from University of Glasgow. Next is Maria. Maria Ayub is our intern counselor. She has done her master's from Grenade College. Next is Sabine, and Sabine is also one of our intern counselors. She has done her master's also from University BNU. Other than that, we have Mahan Nadeem and Adam Qureshi. They are both here on their placements for counselors on placement, and they are um, in masters in clinical psychology from FCCU College. So that is our team. You can also just drop by to sort of sometimes meet our team and sort of have a chat. We are always open to that. I think that was about it. That was our whole presentation for today. At the end of it, what I would like to say here is that there's a lot of excitement about starting a new journey. There are a lot of hopes as well as a lot of fears, because you're starting your undergraduate journey here at LUMS, and just remember to support each other, um, and be kind and empathetic to each other, and help us seek help to become better. Sometimes a lot of people don't reach out because they don't know how to, and they have a lot of fears in their mind regarding it. So help each other, reach out for counseling if possible, because over the years we've seen quite a few cases where friends have brought in their friends for counseling, and it's a very happy feeling to see that. And we are here to listen and to help, and you have faculty, staff, and other people here to listen and help you also. So just at the end, have fun with your journey, but remember to support each other and know that we are here for all of you. Have a good day. Bye bye.